Welcome to the first interview of the Crypto Spendthrift podcast. And here we have Michael here to talk about the Stellar network. So go ahead and introduce yourself to all the folks listening.
All right. Thanks, Cameron. My name is Michael Koller, and I'm a digital asset consultant and cryptocurrency trader. Just for clarification, I want to say that I'm not part of the Stellar organization, and the topics covered today are my opinions. This is not investment advice.
All right, so we like to go straight into the stuff. So first of all, what's Stellar? What does it even do?
All right. So it's a little different than most cryptos, as you know. Stellar is a decentralized protocol that does not use mining to reach consensus. And just to kind of go off of that, to quote the white paper, it's a construction of Federated Byzantine Agreement. And for anyone interested, like if you haven't read the Stellar Consensus Protocol white paper, I highly recommend it because this way of reaching consensus is completely different from what most people are used to. So
yeah, most people are definitely used to the proof of stake or proof of work kind of deal.
Right. And yeah. So do you want me to go a little bit more into how that works a little bit?
Yeah. You can go
Okay.
delve down because, like I said, like you said, it's really unfamiliar for most people here, and I'm
Right,
actually
and I
kind
don't
of
wanna,
wondering more
Yeah.
specifics too.
And I don't want to get too technical, but I definitely want people to know kind of the basics.
Yeah.
But simply put, Stellar uses nodes, quorum slices, and quorums to reach consensus. And so basically, you have a decentralized network without the headaches of proof of work and proof of stake. And the key concept, or one of the key concepts, is that nodes choose whom they trust. And this is programmed in their config file. And so not all nodes will have the same config file. So the quorum slices that are formed and the quorums will form dynamically. And this is how the network is decentralized.
That kind of fits in the whole argument that's going on now with miner versus Bitcoin nodes thing.
Right. And one cool thing about Stellar node, right now, I believe all of the nodes on the network have a copy of all previous transactions, but you don't necessarily need the node to do that. So the barrier to entry on a node is actually not as high as it would be for another crypto as well.
Not downloading multiple gigabytes to just operate your crypto, huh?
Right. Yeah. So that's one cool thing. I actually spoke with the creator of the Stellar Consensus Protocol. His name is David Mazieres. Hope I'm not butchering that, but he's a professor at Stanford University, and he's actually the one who told me that there's nothing in the protocol that actually requires the nodes to have a full copy of the ledger. So I think that was really cool.
Yeah, that's definitely a good differentiator. So would you say that's one of the biggest game-changing features that it has, that doesn't force people to have this massive wallet on their hard drive at all times?
I think that's one of them. I would say for me, a game-changing feature is the lack of mining. So there's no worry of a chain split like Stellar Cash or Stellar Gold. But for others, it could be the speed, because Stellar can handle 1,000 transactions a second, today. And it's also my understanding that can easily be increased when the need arises. So there's definitely some game-changing features for everybody, and everyone would have their own use cases as well.
Definitely some flexibility there, huh?
Yeah.
So everyone knows about Ripple too. Can you just help us differentiate Stellar and Ripple?
Right. So my favorite question, kind of. So everyone knows that Stellar is a fork of Ripple, right? And this comes up a lot, and I understand that that Stellar being a fork of Ripple, and I believe Jed McCaleb founded both Ripple and Stellar,
Yeah.
so there's a little bit of confusion there. but once the Stellar Consensus Protocol was implemented, and I believe that was around 2015, the code completely changed. So like there's no longer like I wouldn't even consider it a fork anymore. Like I consider them two different code bases. And another way that it differs, in my opinion, is well, these are facts, but like a lot of people, they might have a disagreement on something. But Ripple is not decentralized because it uses UNLs, or what's called unique node lists. And Ripple uses a default UNL created by Ripple, the company. And it's basically a list of who to trust. And you can opt out of the default UNL, but doing so increases the chance of a fork on the Ripple network. So rarely people, move away from the default UNL that was already created by the Ripple company.
Yeah, because it seems like it's kind of forcing centralization.
Yeah, exactly. And so, there's a lot of debate on whether Ripple is decentralized or not. Obviously, I think Stellar is the more decentralized version of the two. But that's definitely a hotly debated topic.
Just like a lot of things in crypto, being hotly debated.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So this kind of leads into Ripple kind of be more suited for bigger established people rather than smaller organizations, don't you think?
I kind of think, I guess I'm a little biased. I kind of think that that Stellar has already won the battle with Ripple.
In what way?
Because I feel like Stellar can do what Ripple does, and it's more decentralized. And I also feel like Stellar can also do so much more. So I kind of feel like, Ripple has a lot of bank partnerships. In the finance world, we call that enterprise partnerships. But, it's just a matter of time before those, just because Ripple has partnerships with certain people now, it doesn't mean that those people can't change their mind.
Yeah,
so
later.
Yeah, so it's like you can't automatically say, well, like, oh, Ripple's the de facto crypto for banks, because I feel like Stellar has been under the radar for a while, and so it's suited to both institutions and smaller players and stuff like that.
Yeah, speaking of Stellar being under the radar, like I remember the whole Stellar split and kind of when you could get like 2,000 Stellar for free or something to sign up. But after that, I kind of like never heard of anything from Stellar since, and that's been a while.
Right. Yeah, I think that IBM recently had the AMA on Reddit, and one of the reasons why they chose Stellar was actually they said that technology doesn't make solutions, people do, and so one of the key reasons they chose Stellar was because of the team. And I don't know if you know this, but Stellar is actually a nonprofit, like the company or organization, I should say, that actually like maintains the network. It's a nonprofit. Obviously, Jed McCaleb, formerly of Ripple, is there, and so I think that they've just taken their time to make sure that all the kinks have been worked out, and especially when they decided to implement the Stellar Consensus Protocol, like that was a huge thing. They made sure that they kept membership open, so and they made sure that it was more decentralized than Ripple.
Yeah. I think teams are kind of underrated now. People don't know the importance of it as much as they should, because as you've been seeing all these news, like team drama like breaks a cryptocurrency. Like the Tezos little fallout between them is getting them sued. So the team actually kind of taking their time, being ethical, and slowly rolling out things rather than speeding through it, kind of as a good sign. That really would be something that signals enterprises that, oh, this is the solution we want to go with.
Yeah, and I do like that they're taking their time. Like, at first, because I feel like everything in crypto is so sped
Fast.
up. Yeah, like everybody wants the next thing tomorrow. But I feel like Stellar taking their time, making sure that everything was just the way they wanted it to be. That actually paid off because I think it paid off with the IBM partnership, and I think, there definitely will be more partnerships to come. So yeah.
Yeah, 100%. Because crypto's still kind of under the radar in general. So I'm sure we'll see a lot more money flood in as time goes on. And the ones that kind of take their time rather than speed and try to be the number one solution now as fast as possible will probably end up making a lot of mistakes and costing people lots of money, honestly.
Right, right. And I do feel like that, there are projects out there that they're just they're making a lot of mistakes because, well, part of it is that the technology is so new, it's almost, considered experimental tech.
Yeah.
And so they're, I always reference Ethereum, and I don't want to pick on Ethereum, but and obviously, some stuff recently happened with the
Parity wallets.
multi-sig. Yeah. So I don't want to pick on them, but I feel like with all those ICOs that they allowed to be built on top of them, knowing that it was experimental tech, the writing was on the wall. Yeah.
So, speaking about Ethereum, they revealed their little scaling solution. They're kind of taking it slow with this one. It was a multi-year kind of solution that would eventually roll out something kind of similar to Stellar with being, I think it was like these decentralized universes or something.
Okay.
So I don't know how long that's going to take, and especially since this little setback with the multi-sig. Do you think this kind of signaling that these other crypto really shouldn't be trying to do everything, and since Stellar and Ripple are focusing on kind of a niche market, they're the ones that kind of overtake Ethereum before they even have a chance to scale up?
Well, so you're asking me if Stellar is trying to compete with Ethereum?
Well, no, like the scaling solutions, like
Okay, so how Stellar is
scales
competing
compared
with...
to Ripple. I mean Ethereum.
Okay. Well, so basically I think Stellar already has the advantage. Like I said, 1,000 transactions a second right now, like today, like it's already been tested. Like we could do it today. And I don't know exactly Ethereum's transactions a second. I want to say, is it 7? Is that about right?
It's definitely on the lower end compared to a lot of things.
Sure. So, and so I did watch a few talks a couple months ago when Vitalik was going around talking about plasma subchains. And I don't think that's a solution. And for one, I believe it was either a 2-year or a 3-year time frame.
Yeah, it was multi-year time frame.
Multi-year. And I mean, in 1 year, things can go upside down and change, So like that's like, and obviously in tech, deadlines are constantly pushed up. So, 2 or 3 years can become like 5 years. Like who knows? Or it could be like, oh, well, this doesn't work anymore. So let's like try to figure something else out. And two, from what I understand on the plasma subchains when I watch those talks, is that it makes the network insecure. And I've even heard Vitalik confirm this. And basically, if you have an attack large enough, if the network were using plasma subchains, the time it would take to revert back to the root chain could be like years. So you would tie everybody's money up for years on an attack using plasma.
That's sounding like a reoccurring issue.
Yeah. So obviously, Stellar's already figured it out. Like they basically the network uses transaction fees just to prevent spam, but basically, the network, the protocol on a very simplified version is just it works so fast because the nodes are just signing digital signatures.
Oh yeah. Well, those speeds of the transactions does seem like it'll keep the edge in Stellar for a while, especially since like I said, all these recent happening with Ethereum. and how quickly they would have to roll out to kind of scale up and compete with anything newer. So
Right.
I think that'll be like one of the defining factors in this next year. If like coins trying to evolve too fast and ended up with vulnerabilities that really set them back.
Right, right. And I did want to also point out too that obviously like Stellar would be the ideal platform for the remittance industry because transactions cost fractions of a penny. Um, but there are like because of the scalability, it's a great platform for developers and it can scale and you also don't need to learn new blockchain languages. Like if you develop on Stellar, you don't need to learn Solidity or something like that. You can just work in Go or JavaScript or whatever you're already familiar with. And they're going to start hosting ICOs on Stellar, and one of those is Mobius, and they're making an API to connect all developers to the ecosystem. So basically, overnight, Mobius is allowing every developer in the world to connect to the blockchain ecosystem via the Stellar network. And I think that's kind of big because right now, I believe, if you're a Solidity, if you're looking for someone to develop in Ethereum's languages, it's quite costly because nobody knows it.
Yeah, since it's so new.
Yeah. So I think that that's another advantage that Stellar has, and I think also too, people would debate me and they would say that why, like, just because you have to learn a new language doesn't make it a bad tech, and I sort of agree. And there are things that having a Turing complete, blockchain technology can do that Stellar can't do, but it also opens it up to more security vulnerabilities. So it's kind of a give and take that you have to play with. And Stellar can do specific types of smart contracts, not as robust as Ethereum,
Yeah.
but at the end of the day, sometimes you have to ask yourself, what actually needs a smart contract and what doesn't.
That's also a question that a lot of crypto has to answer. Except it's more like, does this actually need a token or does it not?
Right, right. Like, wasn't the big like the very first idea on Ethereum was Slock it, right? Smart locks.
Yeah.
And it kind of, like the big question for me was like, do we need smart locks on a decentralized platform? And I mean, I could see some use cases, obviously, but I don't think that everything needs a smart contract. But the things that do, I feel like Stellar is probably the best platform for that.
Yeah, that's definitely the direction I kind of go in. Is you don't need to have like an over encompassing thing that does everything, or try to attempt to like build something that can cater to everything. It's probably better just to focus on things that actually need it now, and then
Right.
expand outwards later.
Right. And like I totally like hope that Ethereum can figure out those scaling solutions because it would be nice to be able to develop on that platform the way that they want, like like the vision they have. But right now it's just so insecure, and with crypto, a lot of people are coming into the space, and I kind of think that's why banks sort of are hesitant, or hedge funds, because
They don't want to be liable.
I mean, this is an industry where like overnight, your money can just like go away and there's nothing you can do about it. And that's like such a huge counterparty risk that, I think institutions have their ear to the ground, but they're still really skeptical because, things like the multi-sig problem that recently happened in Ethereum, they happen a little too often for people just to go all in like overnight. Yeah.
Yeah, that was one problem. Then I remember once I reported on. I think someone sent too big of a transaction. It clogged the network, and it was like while the network was clogged, and since it got denied, they lost like 70,000 when it was coming back to them because it was like fee cost or something.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
It
Yeah.
was when the ICO mania was happening.
Yeah, and I keep going back to Mobius. It's the ICO I'm kind of excited about, but I'm not familiar with the specific tech,
Yeah.
but for whatever reason, um, they have a pre-fund period when they do open up. Like the ICO hasn't opened up, but they do have a pre-fund period, and they're able to, for the first 2 days, allow everybody to basically average out the same price, so that there's no scenarios like that where people are paying absorb like huge gas, you know, fees just to like be the first there.
Which is a very common problem in all these ICOs.
Right. So like somehow the Stellar network allows them to accept Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Lumens for the first 2 days, and everyone gets the same price. So there's not like a race to get there first, which is kind of cool. I really like that for an ICO platform. I really do.
Yeah, I can kind of agree with you there, because I feel like one of the worst parts of the ICOs are the 24-hour like bonus things where people just try to go as fast as they can to get it in, and it ends up filling the ICO like in 5 minutes or something, and then all these
Right.
rejected transactions.
Yeah, and that was like a big concern for me. So I asked the team, and the team is readily like available to answer any questions. If you go to their website, I believe it's Mobius.network, and they are using Rocket Chat now. A lot of people have moved over to Rocket Chat because they're getting too much scam stuff is going on Slack. But yeah, you can just go there, and if you have any questions on their ICO, the founders are like always answering questions. So pretty cool.
Yeah, I definitely have a distaste for Slack.
I haven't experienced any of the like scams that I've heard people talk about because I'm not in a lot of those ICO Slacks, but I hear it's pretty bad. I hear it's pretty bad.
I don't know, my beef with Slack's more like it just uses more RAM than it really should for just a simple kind of work chat platform
Right.
or whatever.
Right.
But yeah, Mobius seems pretty interesting then. I'm sure a lot of people will check it out after this. I only had a very kind of brief knowledge of it since I was like looking over the Stellar stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely it's I think it's like the biggest ICO like that I'm most excited about of the year, and the fact that it's being held on Stellar is pretty cool. And like I said, they have that API that they're going to be opening up to all developers, so they connect to the blockchain ecosystem. And they're also they're doing a. Do you say DApp or DApp? How do you pronounce it?
I say DApp, honestly.
I say DApp as well. I don't know why some people say DApp, but I say DApp. But they have so they're trying to also compete with like the App Store and the Apple ecosystem and the Play Store and the Google ecosystem, and they're making their own DApp store. So if you want to, instead of paying like these huge fees to have your app featured in those stores, you can have a decentralized version of it. So they're doing that as well. So, and some of those projects are live. So I think that's pretty cool. Yeah.
No. Hopefully that kind of like would encourage people to do it this way rather than try to ICO fund every little idea.
Right, and it's also cool too that Mobius, they're having the ICO with a working product. That's kind of a big thing too, like I've seen some of those ICOs raise crazy amounts of money and they don't have anything but an idea. It's like, wow. So yeah.
Yeah, definitely a lot of people are just like, give us money and we'll make it eventually.
I know, right? Like, at what point do you say like what's the time frame, or like at what point do I get my money back if you don't deliver? So yeah.
I feel like we're gonna see less of that as more of these SEC kind of violations start being slapped on people. because it's already kind
Right.
of starting.
Right. And, God, it sounds like I'm part, once again, disclaimer, I'm not part of the Mobius organization as well, but they have taken compliance to like a whole nother level. So, you have to do know your customer just to get on the whitelist. It's not just like, anybody can just do it. You have to
Anybody
be on the
can lie.
whitelist. Right. You have to be on the whitelist, and the actual the token that they're issuing, the Mobius token, it's actually used like you're not buying like shares in Mobius. Like you're actually buying the token that's going to be used on the Play Store.
That's a big deal actually, because sometimes there's just tokens that aren't actually utilized for anything. It's just there to raise money or
Well, it's a huge
speculate.
deal in like the regulation sector because now it becomes a utility token, and it's not like considered a security in that sense.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they've really thought of a lot of things. Even the fact that I believe they moved their offices from San Francisco to the Cayman Islands for the best, I guess,
Yeah,
like the best like governance system for this type of thing.
yeah, they're avoiding some laws that subjugate them to kind of the American SEC regulations.
Right. And I don't think they're trying to avoid anything, but they're just making
Make
sure
it
that
easier.
yeah, like they're making sure that they're setting themselves up for success.
Yeah, yeah.
Because a lot of ICOs are run out of Switzerland as well, the Cayman Islands, and they just wanted to make sure that everything is going to run smoothly. There's not going to be some ICO one day and then the next day the SEC comes and shuts it down and makes them refund all the money. They want to make sure that it's like a smooth process.
They have to stop everything because they have to file some kind of paperwork to the SEC before they can continue operating or something dumb like that.
Right, right. And like I said, they are doing know your customer, so it's not just like a anonymous, investment in their utility tokens. They have to. So I believe it's under 20,000, you have to give up to a social security number, and then over that, you have to give you start having to give photocopies and stuff like that.
Some
Which
serious
is
stuff.
yeah, which is good though, because if they did, if something did happen, they know exactly who to refund. So I think that's
Yeah.
good. I think it's good to play it safe.
Yeah. And definitely with the uncertainty with the legal like regulation coming.
Right, right. Yeah. So I think they have, they definitely know what they're doing, and yeah, I can't wait. The launch date on Mobius was pushed up. I'm not exactly sure on the date, but it's sometime at the end of November. So
Yeah.
that's when the ICO will open up. But
It's
yeah.
like the website saying the 22nd.
Right, right. Okay, there you go. So, and then the first 2 days should be the pre-fund period. So you don't have to like race to get your Ethereum or Bitcoin or whatever. Like, you can just take your time, whenever you're ready, make some dinner, send the transaction. You don't have to, there's no race to
Don't
get
have
your
to
money
wait
there.
instantly to throw your coins at it and try to get in the first 5 minutes like some
Yeah.
things.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I think that's really cool that they did that pre-fund thing. That was definitely a huge selling point for me because I didn't want to compete with big pockets.
No one really does when they're on the lower end. I know that feel very well.
Right.
So to get back to Stellar a bit, we kind of went off on a tangent in a related one with the Mobius, but it's talking about scaling again. There's a lot of side chain scaling solutions, specifically for Bitcoin, like Lightning Network. How do you think kind of Stellar compares with those solutions? Because some people are like super hardcore into Bitcoin being the everything solution, and side chains
Right.
kind of help enable that.
Right. So this is where people don't like to hear me say this, but I I think that it's not really a competition anymore because I already see proof of work and proof of stake as old tech, and whether that's mining or early adoption centralization? Like, would you agree that like mining can be centralized?
Yeah, I can
And
agree
would,
there.
and then would you agree that with proof of stake, early adopters basically
Have an advantage.
have the power, right?
Yeah,
So,
if it's at a lower, it's gonna always be at a lower price early, so somebody could
right,
accumulate and have more power in the network.
right. So I already see those technologies as like old tech, and that's why there are some other projects that are non-mining protocols that I'm excited to see if they can actually like make it work. Is it how do you pronounce it? Is it EOS or EOS?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, yeah, I
Pronunciation's not my
believe.
strong suit with those.
Yeah, but I think that they're doing a non-mining protocol, and like I already feel like the proof of work stuff is sort of it's like old, like maybe like blockchain 1.0 or kind of how the internet was in the 90s. It's like the Netscape Navigator, you know. But specifically the Lightning Network, I don't. I think it's more of a band-aid, to be honest with you. My understanding is that it requires funds to be tied up, and
Yeah,
once again, that tying up of funds centralizes a decentralized project. So, I just don't think that those solutions can compete with Stellar.
I can't really fully argue with you on this because I've always kind of like said to myself, Bitcoin is just like the 1.0, and eventually something will have to replace it for like future uses.
Right,
But
right.
that's actually kind of a controversial statement to say to some people.
It is, right? And yeah, especially people that only invest in Bitcoin and they see the other coins as you know, just not having any value. So yeah, super controversial, but only time will tell though. Only time will tell. I think enough more mining drama is only going to devalue Bitcoin. So
Well,
yeah.
I feel like it's not gonna necessarily devalue it, but it's gonna kind of lower the user participation rates eventually, as like the price gets higher and higher, kind of like a ceiling gets on.
Right. Right. And everyone used to talk about adoption back when I was in back when I first got into crypto in 2013, everyone was talking about adoption, how important adoption was. Well, at the current prices, like who wants to buy right now? Like if I tell some friends that have never have heard about crypto and they're like, "Okay, like how much is one Bitcoin?" Well, you were kind of late to the party here. It's
A low
like,
price of 7,000.
yeah. So, yeah, I don't think that the huge escalation of price in Bitcoin is going to help adoption, and I don't think that the chain splits and all that central. Basically, to me, I consider it mining centralization. I don't think that's helping them either.
Yeah, fair. Uh, but it's kind of interesting though to see how other cryptos came and gone. But Bitcoin's still there, Litecoin's still there. What other
Right,
ones were
right,
like really super early that's still here?
right. You had Dash that was originally Darkcoin, I guess, but not really a fan of that one
Yeah.
either. I mean, my list of coins that I really like, and I hope they succeed is really hope that's the case for most people. I feel like anonymous coins are going to be a big thing in 2018.
I've
So
been a very big advocator saying Bitcoin's going to be replaced by Monero for the dark like web activities. Like I can
oh
already
yeah, for
see
sure.
that.
I would say that it already has, like to a certain extent. And it used to be that the maximalists in Bitcoin used to only consider Monero the only true altcoin. So it's kind of interesting how that whole situation is playing out too.
I was kind of flipping there, and
Yeah, yeah, because who knows? Because what's Bitcoin's selling feature? If you think about it, it's a store of value. but it's not anonymous. So once you add that store of value and you make it anonymous, like, then what's the purpose of Bitcoin? Like,
Yeah, the future is kind of questionable and rife with conflict, as we've already seen.
right.
So, speaking of futures, so what general future do you think Stellar has?
So I think the IBM partnership was just the beginning. I think Stellar's ability to scale will just attract more enterprise partners. I think Stellar will begin to compete with Ethereum on as an ICO platform and maybe a full-scale competitor at some point. That being said, just want to make sure that people get my view on this. I don't think Ripple is a Stellar competitor, and that's due to the centralization issues I mentioned earlier. So yeah.
Yeah, as we said, only time will tell. But I feel like after like talking to you a bit more about Stellar, it definitely has a better future than a lot of these even top 20 coins that are up here.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, definitely. I don't know a lot about it, but I know it gets a lot of bad press. Better than is it called BitConnect?
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
people calling
it's
it
like
a pyramid scheme and stuff like that.
yeah, but isn't it like in the top 20 as well?
Uh, yeah, it's 19.
Yeah, so it's like why is that? Like, yeah, it's interesting. But yeah,
uh,
man, I appreciate you having me on your show
yeah,
here.
I'm glad to have you. Oh, the very first interview I've done for this.
Yeah, yeah. So, where can I go to, I guess, listen to myself speak?
Well, we have a decent amount of options. We got an iTunes option, Google Play, or YouTube.
Okay, so
So
you don't have it posted on like on a website as
I
well?
do. I just really I used to like totally disregard the website, but I've started to post more on the website, and I always post have a Steemit post to accompany it usually. So you might catch it on Steemit, but I'm not really have a massive following there yet. So
Okay, and do you have a Twitter?
yeah, I have a personal Twitter that I link up, but I don't really post all that much. I just kind of like retweet what people are talking about in crypto.
Okay, cool. All
Uh,
right.
I can just send all that information over because I usually have like
Yeah.
this pre-done kind of deal going on.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And if anyone's interested, my Twitter handle is Koller. That's KOLLER_social. And same for Medium as well. I've written a couple stellar posts on there too. So
All right, it was nice having you, Michael. Maybe sometime in the future I can like bring you back on after Stellar's done some more stuff. We can talk about that.
yeah, if everyone's made a big 20x, so you can bring me back on and tell me how right I was.
Definitely.
All right, cool, man. Well, thanks for having me on, and hope you have a good afternoon.
Yeah. You have a great afternoon, and this has been the very first interview of the Crypto Spinther podcast.